This all happened when I was younger. My best friend and I had planned a pizza night at my house while our parents went out. Our plan was simple: have our parents order pizza and play video games until we passed out. Simpler times. But what started as an innocent night quickly spiraled into something terrifying. For privacy reasons, I won't mention my friend's name. It was summer break, and we were just happy to be done with school. My friend arrived in the late afternoon while our parents got ready. Before dark, the pizza arrived, our parents left, and we settled in for games. We had finished one pizza and were grabbing the second when we heard a knock at the door. We exchanged confused glances. There were plenty of door-to-door salespeople in my neighborhood, but it was way past the time anyone should have been knocking. Back then, we didn't have doorbell cameras. The only way to see who was at the door was to look through the window or open it, and there was no way in hell we were opening that door. Instead, we peeked through the window. The porch light wasn't bright, but we could make out a tall, older man. His posture was stiff, his face shadowed. I remember being intimidated by his height alone. Then, he knocked again, harder this time. I hesitated before walking to the door, telling my friend to keep watch. My heart pounded as I forced myself to speak. "Can I help you?" I asked, my voice unsteady. "I need to speak with Margaret," the man replied. "There's nobody here by that name, sir," I muttered. From the window, my friend whispered, "He's walking away." We exhaled in relief. Being kids, we brushed it off as some lost old man and went back to our pizza and games. But the night wasn't over. An hour later, we were getting tired and decided to play a few more rounds before calling it a night. Then, another knock. This time, loud and demanding. The entire door shook under the force of it. "Margaret, I know you're in there," the man yelled. A chill ran down my spine. My friend's face had gone pale, his knuckles white from gripping the controller too hard. I told him to grab the phone and be ready to call the police. Summoning my courage, I yelled through the door, "There is no one here by that name, old man." I tried to sound tough, but my trembling voice probably gave me away. The knocking turned violent. I glanced back. My friend was already on the phone with 911. The dispatcher told us to stay out of sight. We bolted and hid behind the couch. Looking back, I realized it wasn't the best hiding spot, but at the time, it felt like our only option. The pounding stopped. Silence. Then, bang, bang, bang. The sound moved. He was at the window now, something metallic slamming against the glass. "I'm gonna kill him, and you, Margaret." We were frozen in fear, huddled together. The pounding continued as he moved from one window to the next, then back to the door. He was trying to break in. The entire door shook violently as he kicked it or rammed his body against it. Then, faint sirens. My friend's eyes widened. "The cops are here." Red and blue lights flickered through the curtains. Outside there was yelling. Then, silence. A few moments later, a firm but calm knock on the door. "You kids okay in there? It's the police. You're safe. Can you open the door?" We didn't answer immediately. We crept to the window and peeked out. To my relief, it really was an officer. We opened the door. He explained that they had the old man in custody. Our parents were contacted, and when they arrived, they spoke with the police while we stayed inside. Later that night, my parents told me something that still haunts me. The old man had dementia. He didn't even live in our town. Somehow, in his confusion, he had wandered here, convinced that my house belonged to his wife's lover. But the most disturbing part? His wife had been dead for over 4 years. And the truly terrifying part? He had been armed with a shotgun. To this day, I can't help but wonder, what if he had gotten in? What if the police had been too late? The thought chills me to my core. It's terrifying to realize that no matter where you are, no matter how safe you feel, anything can happen. A simple, fun night between friends can turn into a nightmare in an instant. I've never liked being alone at night. My mom used to say I'd grow out of it, but I never did. Even as a kid, I'd lie awake, convinced something was lurking in the dark. My dad would check the closet and under the bed, trying to reassure me. "It's just your imagination," he'd say, but it never helped. Now I'm 16, and I thought I was past all that. But last week, when I was home alone for the first time in our new house, that fear came rushing back. We had just moved 3 days earlier into an old Victorian-style house. It was a fixer-upper with creaky floors, weird noises, and this unsettling energy I couldn't explain. Mom and Dad saw it as a great deal. I saw it as the complete opposite. It didn't help that the neighborhood was sketchy. Boarded-up houses a few streets over, graffiti on stop signs, and people who didn't linger outside after dark. That night, my parents were at a work party. "We'll be back by midnight," Mom said. "Keep the doors locked." I nodded, trying to act like I wasn't nervous. Later that night, I was in the kitchen making a sandwich when I heard it. A soft, rhythmic tapping on the window above the sink. My stomach dropped. I turned, expecting to see something, but there was nothing. Just my own reflection against the dark backyard. I told myself it was the wind, but as I moved through the house, the tapping seemed to follow, always just out of sight. A few hours later, the quiet was unbearable. The storm outside knocked out the cable, and I gave up on watching TV. I tried reading, but I was too distracted. Then I heard it. Several voices outside, whispering. My breath caught. I used my phone to look at our security camera. The porch was empty. I retreated to the living room, curled up under a blanket. That's when I heard footsteps on the porch. Slow, heavy, then the jingle of keys. My entire body tensed. The doorknob rattled. The footsteps moved to the side of the house, then a faint scraping. Someone testing the windows. My ears strained, my breath shallow. Then the doorknob turned. The front door creaked open. Or so I thought. Was I imagining all of this? I squeezed my eyes shut. My heart slammed against my ribs. But nothing happened. When I opened my eyes, the door was closed. The house was silent. And then, glass shattered. The kitchen. I rushed to dial 911. I fumbled with my phone, my hands shaking. I barely managed to whisper, "Someone's breaking in. Please, hurry." Footsteps, heavy and deliberate, crunched over the broken glass. They were inside. I didn't know if I should hide or fight. Obviously, I hid, pressing my hand over my mouth. The steps got closer. My pulse pounded in my ears. Then, sirens. The footsteps stopped. For a few seconds, there was silence. Then running. The sound of someone climbing out the window. Gravel crunched outside. The police arrived minutes later. Flashlights swept through the house. "It's okay, you're safe," one officer said. They found the broken window, footprints leading away into the night. My parents got home soon after. Mom pulled me into a shaking hug. "We never should have left you alone," she whispered. The police took my statement and promised extra patrols, but I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the boarded-up window. The intruder was gone. But that feeling, that deep, gnawing fear, It never left. And I still wonder, what if they come back? I never felt safe in that house after that day.